Welcome back to Decode the Illusion. Your awakening starts here. Hello everyone, if you're new here, welcome. And today is a very exciting day because we're going into episode 3. This episode is called You Have Been Programmed Since Birth, It's Time to Wake Up. Before I get started with this episode, just want to ask you to please take some time to like this video and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. It would really help us out. Alright, let's get going. When I first started getting introduced to the idea that maybe we were being programmed from birth, I had no idea where to start. There are so many things that we accept as normal that might not be normal after all. In this episode, I'm going to share with you 3 different ideas. The first one is, how did this program happen? And then we're going to look at who programmed me. And lastly, how do I deprogram? How did the program happen? Well, imagine for a second, if you will, that I came up to you and I asked you, "Hey, can you tie your shoes?" And you looked at me and said, "I don't know how to tie my shoes." So then I said, "Well, why don't you watch this video and I'll show you how to do it." So you go off and watch the video and then come back and you say, "Okay, I think I got it." And then we go off to the store and I ask the clerk, "Can you tie your shoes?" And you go, "Yeah, sure." So you kneel down and you tie your shoes. Did you learn how to tie your shoes? Did you read a book about it? Did you watch a video? Someone showed you how to do it, step by step, and then you were able to replicate the steps to tie your shoes. You were able to replicate what you were shown. You didn't have to think about it or overanalyze it. You just did it. Learned a behavior through observation and repetition. So now let's shift this into a slightly different context. Instead of tying your shoes, let's talk about anger. Let's pretend that you grew up in a household where every time you were angry, your parents would yell at you and tell you, "Stop being angry. Why are you angry? What's wrong with you?" So anytime you felt angry, you were shamed for feeling angry. So what's going to happen? You're going to learn a behavior based on the feedback that you receive whenever you express anger. You're going to learn that anger is something to be ashamed of, something to be hidden, something that's wrong. Alright, as an adult, you might go into situations where you feel angry. But instead of expressing your anger in a healthy way, you might suppress it, you might ignore it, you might hide it. You might act like nothing happened, even though inside you're fuming mad. Why? Because you were shamed for being angry. You were told that anger was wrong. You were told that anger needed to be suppressed. And then you repeated that process over and over again until it became a behavior that you replicated consistently. So how are we programmed? Through observation and repetition. Who programmed me? Once you understand that you were programmed through observation and repetition, the next question becomes, well, who's been observing me and who's been repeating these behaviors back to me? Well, there's one obvious answer, and that's your parents. Your parents are the first people that you were around. They are the first people that you observed. They are the first people that you interacted with. Obviously, they had a big influence on how you turned out as a person. But there are other people that also programmed you. For example, when you went to school, you were around other kids. You were around teachers. These people also impacted how you turned out. Maybe in school, you were around a bully, and the bully tormented you so much that you became fearful. And as an adult, maybe you're in a situation where you could stand up for yourself, but you don't because you're fearful. Why? Because you were bullied as a child. Someone repeated bullying behaviors to you, and you learned that behavior. Now, it doesn't just have to be negative behaviors. It could also be positive behaviors. Let's say that you were in a household where your parents always praised you and told you how great you were, and possibly your teachers. What could happen? You could learn a behavior of arrogance. You could learn a behavior of thinking that you're better than others. That's a possibility. So who programmed you? Your parents, your teachers, your peers, your friends, people that you worked with, people that you dated. All these people programmed you through their words and through their actions. Now that we know that we were programmed through observation and repetition, and we know that there's many people that have programmed us, the next question is, how do I deprogram? Well, there's a couple ways to go about doing this. First thing you need to do is become aware. You need to realize that you've been programmed. You need to realize that you have certain behaviors that maybe aren't serving you anymore, certain core beliefs that maybe aren't helping you anymore. Once you become aware of these behaviors and beliefs, then the next step is to choose whether you want to keep them or not. If you choose to let them go, then the next step is to replace those behaviors and beliefs with new ones. And then you repeat this process over and over again until you've replaced all the old programs with new ones. One of the things that I love about being human is our ability to change. We're not stuck with the programs that we've learned. We can choose to update them. We can choose to make changes in our life. We can choose to be the person that we want to be. Just take some work. It takes becoming aware of our current programs, choosing whether we want to keep them or not, replacing them with new behaviors and beliefs, and then repeating this process over and over again. It's not an easy process, but it's definitely worth it if you're unhappy with the person that you are. If you're unhappy with the behaviors that you're replicating, you have the ability to change. You have the ability to deprogram. Would you like some examples? One of the most important things that you can do if you want to deprogram yourself is to become self-aware. You need to become aware of your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. You need to realize the connection between your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. Your thoughts create your feelings, which in turn create your behaviors. If you want to change your behaviors, you need to start with your thoughts. If you want to change the way you think, you need to start with your awareness. You need to observe your thoughts without judgment. You need to see them for what they are, just thoughts. They're not facts, they're not absolute truths. They're just thoughts. Once you become aware of your thoughts, then you can start to challenge them. You can start to ask yourself questions like, is this thought helpful? Is this thought accurate? Is this thought true? If the answer is no, then you can start to replace that thought with a new one. Let's say that you're in a relationship and your partner does something that makes you feel angry. Instead of saying, oh, my partner is so selfish, you can say, hey, I'm feeling angry right now. Can you help me understand what happened? You're taking responsibility for your own emotions. You're not blaming your partner. By taking responsibility for your emotions, you're empowering yourself. You're no longer a victim of your circumstances. You're no longer a victim of your programming. The next thing that you can do if you want to deprogram yourself is to become mindful. You need to become mindful of your body, of your emotions, of your thoughts. You need to be present in the moment. You need to be aware of what's going on inside and outside of you. When you're present in the moment, you're less likely to be on automatic pilot. You're less likely to be a victim of your programming. You're more likely to be in control of your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. Last thing you can do if you want to deprogram yourself is to become intentional. You need to start setting goals for yourself. You need to start visualizing what you want your life to look like. You need to start taking action towards the things that are important to you. When you set goals for yourself, you're taking control of your life, no longer just floating through. You're actually doing things that are important to you. When you visualize what you want your life to look like, you're creating a clear picture in your mind of what success looks like. This makes it easier to take action towards your goals. When you take action towards your goals, you're no longer a victim of your programming. You're actually creating the life that you want to live. So remember, brothers and sisters, we've been programmed since birth. It's time to wake up. It's time to become aware of our programming. It's time to start making changes in our life. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Always remember, you are amazing. I believe in you. Your journey to awakening begins here, fueled by courage, clarity, and a deep desire to grow. You're not alone. We're moving forward together. Remember, this is just the third step, and we'll be with you every step of the way, all the way to the end. Next in the series, Episode 4, Your Thoughts Create Your Reality. The power to transform your world begins in your mind.